All right, folks, joining me now, Senator Dan Sullivan, who I'm sure agrees with everything we've just said about balancing the budget. He is a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. He is also a colonel in the Marine Corps Reserve. Senator, welcome to the show.
Great to be on the show, Larry.
Just for the heck of it, what did you think about my conversation with Mick Mulvaney just a moment ago, balancing the budget?
Well, I think it's critical, right? And we have to do a lot more in terms of growth. But I think Mick Mulvaney's right in terms of the programs like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. The thing that nobody ever talks about, the way to save those is to reform them so the next generation of Americans can have them. If you look at the way in which they're running right now, Larry, as you know, the next generation of Americans isn't even going to have that benefit. That's the way in which you need to talk about reforming those programs, which are critical programs. But right now, they're running out of money so badly that the next generation of Americans won't even be able to benefit from them. That's the key.
Well, I'm just suggesting that with this persistent, relentless inflation, now is the time to strike. And I think it's a good GOP rallying cry. Not the details, Senator, but I think the principle of a balanced budget in a time of high inflation like this would sell well on the campaign trail.
I agree, and I think everybody back home is focused on the inflation problems, the huge challenges that we're having, and also the wages. You know, Larry, we've had 17 months of real wage decline in this country. That's essentially every month of the Biden administration, and yet here you have Chuck Schumer and Manchin holding this celebration at the White House the other day. It was ridiculous. They're having a party literally on the lawn of the White House when record numbers of inflation are announced, the stock market tanks, and you got literally a couple thousand people on the White House celebrating. You want to talk about out-of-touch politicians? That was a picture-perfect example of that. Inflation's the #1 issue, and it's been a self-inflicted wound by the Biden administration's excessive spending and a Federal Reserve that I think blew it over the last couple of years on inflation.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Senator Sullivan, you're on the Armed Services Committee. You're watching the Ukrainian story. Can the Ukrainians win? They're regrouping. They're picking off territories in the Northeast. How far can this go?
Look, Larry, I think they can win. And one of the things I've been pressing this administration, including our military leaders over the last several months, is to actually declare that. To actually say, hey, we're in it to actually help them win it. This has been a remarkable counteroffensive, driven primarily by the will and the fighting spirit and the heroism of the Ukrainian soldiers and the Ukrainian people. That's important. But it's also been the American support in terms of intel, the American support in terms of heavy weapon systems like the HIMARS systems. We can do more, but here's the thing. We also need our European allies to step up on this. The United States cannot single-handedly supply the Ukrainian military with these kind of weapon systems. We have global responsibilities. You saw that Xi Jinping and Putin met today talking about how they're going to continue their work together. We got challenges in the Taiwan Strait. We need our European allies to step up with regard to help. But we can help the Ukrainians win that. We need to be talking about winning. And this counteroffensive we just saw was quite remarkable, but it's a good combination of all those factors coming together.
And last one, Senator Sullivan, Joe Manchin kind of double-crossed his Republican friends, but it looks like his Democratic friends are going to double-cross him. My question to you, sir, is will there ever be permitting reform for fossils, for renewables, for all kinds of construction? Will there be permitting reform?
Well, Larry, I hope so. And, you know, you and I worked on this together when you were with President Trump in the White House. I am passionate about permitting reform. It's an issue that, you know, my great state, the great state of Alaska, unfortunately, we're ground zero for some of the far left radical environmental groups who try to make sure permitting reforms goes for 10, 20, 30 years. We had a gold mine that took 20 years to permit for the work that we did on the Kensington gold mine in southeast Alaska. We just had a road on the Kenai Peninsula, a 30-year EIS. This is insane. My state deals with this all the time. The first thing we need to do is we need to undo the damage that the Biden administration has already done in terms of permitting. You may have seen, I know you talked about it a lot on your show, and I appreciate it. My Congressional Review Act resolution about 6 weeks ago passed the United States Senate. That resolution rescinded the horrendous Biden administration NEPA regulations that they put forward that was going to kill all infrastructure and oil and gas projects. We got that over the goal line, Larry, in the Senate. We're going to get it done in the House, I hope, and put it on the president's desk. Say, all right, you're going to veto this? Who do you stand with, Mr. President? The working men and women of America who want to build things, or the far-left radical enviros who want to shut it down? That's what my CRA resolution actually did, put Democrats on notice, and I'm hopeful to get that resolution on the president's desk.
All right. The cavalry's coming. I like that. The cavalry's coming. Senator Dan Sullivan, thank you, sir.